The cafe was warm and loud, wrapped in Christmas lights and careless laughter. Cups clinking, chairs scraping, the smell of coffee and cinnamon floating like comfort. Then a single piano key was pressed too hard, the note cracking the noise in half. Conversations faltered. A few heads turned. The little girl climbed onto the bench by herself. Shoes scuffing the wood, legs too short to reach the pedals. Her red sweater looked oversized, like borrowed courage. She placed her hands on the keys and hesitated, chest rising fast, as if she suddenly understood how many eyes were watching. Fear flickered across her face, then resolve. She pressed down again, softer this time. The melody crept out, fragile and unsure, each note stepping carefully into the air as though it might break. The cafe began to quiet, one breath at a time. Adults froze mid-sip, smiles fading into something reverent. The girl's fingers trembled but did not stop. She leaned forward, eyes closing, trusting the song to carry her. Somewhere beneath the music lived a loneliness too big for her age, and the tension of whether she would fail hung heavy until the melody found its rhythm, steady and brave, filling the room with something pure enough to silence everyone. The CEO halted as if an invisible wall had risen in front of him. One foot hovered in the air, his phone still lit in his palm, a half-written message to a board member waiting to be sent. The warmth of the cafe didn't reach him. He still carried the cold of glass, offices and late-night decisions in his shoulders. Then the music slid under his skin. His eyes lifted, sharp and annoyed at first, ready to dismiss the interruption until the melody shaped itself into something familiar. His breath caught. The sound tugged at a locked place in his chest, one he'd buried under years of profit and control. His fingers tightened around the phone until the screen dimmed. A pulse throbbed in his throat. He took a step closer, then another, drawn forward without permission, as if the notes were pulling him on a string. The watch on his wrist ticked, each second too loud, echoing the panic blooming inside him. This wasn't just a child playing. This was a memory walking toward him in plain sight. His mind screamed for logic, for distance, but his body betrayed him, leaning in, eyes fixed on the small figure at the piano, fear and longing twisting together as the realization crept closer. He had heard this song before, in a life he thought was gone forever. The girl played with her eyes shut tight, lashes resting against flushed cheeks, as if opening them might make the moment disappear. Her small shoulders lifted with each breath, the weight of the room pressing down on her without her fully understanding why. Her fingers moved carefully now, more confident than before, pressing keys with quiet determination. The melody flowed simple and clean, without tricks, without performance, only truth. Around her, the cafe leaned inward. Chairs creaked softly as people shifted closer. Hands clasped. A woman covered her mouth to keep from crying. The CEO felt his chest tighten further as the song revealed its shape. The familiar pauses, the gentle rise at the end of each line that only one person had ever played that way. His heart began to pound, not fast but heavy, each beat landing like a warning. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't nostalgia playing games with him. The song carried fingerprints, emotional ones, etched into every note. He could almost predict what came next, and that terrified him. When the girl reached a softer passage, her head tilted slightly, just like the woman in his memory used to do when she concentrated. A wave of recognition crashed through him, so strong he had to steady himself against the edge of a table. The room was silent now, suspended in the fragile space between sound and meaning. And with every note she played, the distance between his present life and his buried past grew dangerously thin. The music cracked something loose inside him, and suddenly he wasn't in the cafe anymore. He was standing in a narrow kitchen with flickering yellow light, rain tapping against a thin window like impatient fingers. The past rushed in without permission, vivid and sharp, stealing his breath. He saw her at the stove, barefoot on cold tiles, hair tied back loosely, humming the same melody while stirring something simple they couldn't afford to mess up. She'd glance over her shoulder at him, smiling like everything was going to be okay, even when it wasn't. That smile hit him, now like a bruise being pressed. His throat tightened as the memory deepened. He remembered the piano against the wall, old and slightly out of tune, his fingers missing notes. Her laughter filling the room, warm and forgiving. "It's not about being perfect," she'd said. "It's about feeling it." The same feeling poured out of the child's hands now. The sound of a cup clinking in the cafe yanked him halfway back. But the memory refused to fade. He remembered the argument, the silence afterward, the night she packed quietly, leaving the piano behind like an accusation. He never touched it again. His chest burned, sharp and raw. He hadn't heard this song since that night. Had convinced himself he'd imagined how she played it, how she made it hers. But this was real, alive, echoing through a room full of strangers. The girl pressed into a gentle run of notes and his vision blurred. The melody didn't just remind him of her, it carried her. Every pause, every breath between notes. His fingers curled at his sides as if reaching for something already lost. Fear crept in beneath the ache. Not the fear of memory, but of meaning. Because songs like this didn't survive by accident. And neither did the past. The girl's fingers slipped on a chord, the sound bending wrong for half a second, sharp and exposed. A quiet gasp rippled through the cafe. Her shoulders stiffened, but she didn't pull back. She swallowed, jaw setting with a resolve far too big for her small frame, and pressed on. The melody wobbled, then steadied like someone choosing to stand after a fall. That single moment of imperfection cut deeper than flawless playing ever could. The CEO's body reacted before his mind did. His breath hitched, a sharp intake like pain. His hand twitched at his side, instinct screaming to stop her, to protect the song from being heard again. His eyes burned. He knew that mistake, knew that stubborn push forward afterward. He had lived that exact moment a lifetime ago. The cafe felt fragile now, like one wrong sound might shatter it. No one moved. No one coughed. Even the espresso machine fell silent. The girl leaned closer to the keys, her hair falling into her face, fingers pressing harder, refusing to let fear win. The courage in it made his chest ache. He felt exposed, like the child had reached into him, without knowing, and pulled something raw into the open. This wasn't entertainment. This was confession. The song carried bruises, carried survival, carried the quiet insistence of someone who had been hurt but kept going anyway. His lips parted, but no sound came out. A single thought thundered through him, unwelcome and terrifying. This song had been taught, not copied. Passed down with intention, with love. His pulse roared in his ears as dread and hope tangled together, tightening around his heart while the girl played on, fearless in the face of silence. The final note faded slowly, trembling as it hung in the air, then vanished. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. Then the cafe erupted, chairs scraping back, hands clapping too loud, voices breaking through the spell like crashing waves. The girl startled at the noise, blinking as if she'd just woken from a dream. She didn't stand. She didn't smile wide or bow like performers did. She simply sat there, small and still, absorbing the sound without understanding why it felt so heavy. The CEO clapped once by accident, then stopped. The noise hurt. Applause felt wrong, like cheering at something sacred. His ears rang as the room filled with praise. But all he could see was the child on the bench, her hands resting in her lap, knuckles pale, as if she'd given away something precious and didn't know if she'd get it back. Her eyes searched the room, drifting over faces that beamed at her, mouths forming words she couldn't hear. Then her gaze locked onto him. The moment sharpened. Everything else blurred. She leaned forward slightly, studying him with open curiosity, like she recognized something she couldn't name. He felt pinned in place. His heart slammed so hard it made him dizzy. When she lifted her hand and pointed, straight, at him, the air seemed to collapse inward. The applause thinned, confusion rippling outward as people noticed the shift. Her voice cut clean through the noise, clear and innocent, heavy with truth. "Sir, I learned this song from my mommy." The word struck him like a blow. Sound vanished. Blood rushed in his ears. His knees weakened, and for a terrifying second he thought he might fall. The world tilted as one impossible thought screamed inside him. This wasn't over, it was beginning. Silence slammed into the room, thick and absolute, swallowing the last echo of applause. Every face turned toward him, but he barely noticed. His focus tunneled down to the small girl and the word still ringing in his head. Mommy, the word felt foreign and familiar all at once, twisting something deep in his chest. He took a step forward, then stopped, fear locking his joints. His mouth opened, but no sound came. Logic tried to rush in, coincidence, imagination, desperation, but his hands were shaking too badly to believe any of it. The child waited, patient and unafraid, as if she knew the truth would catch up to him eventually. He forced himself to breathe. The air tasted sharp. "What's your mommy's name?" The question scraped its way out. fragile, almost afraid of the answer. His voice cracked on the last word, betraying him in front of strangers he'd never cared about before. The girl tilted her head, thinking for a second, then smiled like it was the easiest thing in the world. She said the name gently, proudly, as if sharing a treasure. The same name he'd whispered into empty rooms for years. The same name he'd buried under work and walls and silence. The cafe spun. His vision blurred at the edges, as the truth crashed through every defense he'd built. His heart pounded so violently it hurt. This wasn't memory playing tricks. This was real, standing right in front of him. He pressed a hand to the table beside him to stay upright. 20 years of loneliness caved in at once, replaced by something more terrifying than grief, hope. The name lingered in the air long after she said it, soft but devastating, like a bell still ringing after it's been struck. His knees finally gave a little, not enough to drop him, just enough to make him feel how close he was to falling apart. The cafe lights blurred into warm streaks as tears burned his eyes, unwelcome and unstoppable. He hadn't cried when he lost everything else. This did it. He stepped forward, slow, careful, as if sudden movement might break the fragile reality forming in front of him. Every instinct screamed to run and to stay at the same time. The little girl watched him calmly, feet swinging, trust written openly on her face. That trust terrified him more than the truth itself. His chest felt too tight for his lungs. The world he had built, steel, glass, numbers, control, crumbled with each step he took toward her. This wasn't a boardroom. There was no strategy here. No escape, only consequence. He stopped just short of the piano, close enough to see the faint smudge of dirt on her shoe, close enough to smell crayons and soap. His voice shook as he spoke her name, tasting it for the first time. The sound of it hurt and healed all at once. The melody replayed in his mind, no longer lonely, no longer lost. It had led him here on purpose. He understood then with a clarity that stole his breath. The song wasn't a memory. It was a bridge. As he looked at the child who carried the past and the future in the same small hands, something inside him finally let go. Whatever came next would change everything. And for the first time in years, he didn't fight it.